Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rooted Mama podcast. So, when I say that this episode is one of the most important episodes of my entire podcast, I am not joking. Today, we are joined by Emily Ann Buck. She is a powerhouse of a woman ordained by God to do just this work. And I can't wait for y'all to hear her testimony, her story. Emily is a domestic violence survivor and a warrior for the cause. She goes around sharing information, vital, crucial information about how to identify domestic violence, signs of abuse, red flags in a new partner, ways to get out of a domestic violence situation. So much crucial information in this one episode. I cannot wait for y'all to hear it. So don't miss it. I promise you, you will not regret it. Before we get into the episode, if you're someone who is a returning guest, a returning listener, that means you probably like this podcast. So if you haven't already, please leave us a review. You can do so on Apple or Spotify. There's also the ability to rate the podcast. If you love it, give it 5 stars. It helps to get us in the hands and ears of those women who need it most. All right, y'all, let's get into the episode. All right, Emily Ann, welcome to the podcast.
So excited to talk with you. Thanks for having me.
So I have to say that you're one of my favorite people on the internet. There's so many things that I just crack up laughing in your stories.
It's a
There's so many things where I'm just like, she is so funny. Like just the way that you position yourself, like you'll do like a funny meme and then like your face is like in the corner somewhere. It's just hilarious.
I've been using that specific photo for 5 years now. Yeah.
I love it.
That very reason. Thank you for picking up on that.
Yeah. So you've done a lot. You've done a lot. But one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on was specifically your work with domestic violence and spreading awareness about that. But I would love for you to kind of just tell your backstory and like how you
Yeah.
came to be doing this work. So let's start there.
Okay. And I my background in domestic violence, I think this is my 16th year. So I could go 20 minutes or I can go an hour. So I know where to squash some of the story.
Sure,
So
yeah. Yeah,
okay.
so just give us kind of like a synopsis of kind of like
Okay.
how you got started. And I know there is a personal story there. So if you want to tell the personal story, I would love for the audience to hear that.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely my testimony. So, and what I like about this is I could do my speech that I do to students in my sleep. So this is different. And so you guys will get things that not everybody gets to hear all the time because of time's sake. So
Yeah.
my background is in criminal justice. And ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a homicide detective. So my mom thought I was weird, but we all know that somebody has to do that job. But like that is what I wanted to do since I was a very small girl. And so, and I say that because a lot of people are like, oh, because of your story, is that why you went into the criminal justice field? It's not. It's always been a desire of mine to work in that field. But I did get my degree in criminal justice, and I started in our local jail as a pretrial officer. And what had happened was my coworker and I, we had a domestic violence case, and I was doing pretrial, which is a lot like a probation officer for anybody that doesn't know. We had a domestic violence case. Well, that led to, her name was Marianne, and that led to Marianne and I in the office in the jail for the next 3 hours, crying our eyes out. And I was sharing my story with her that I had really kept inside since high school for the most part. And so she said, Emily Ann, you have to share your story. And so that still gives me chills because that was the day that God opened the doors for the next 16 years for me to share my story. And so she connected me with the Special Crimes Unit over at Knoxville Police Department. And I went and I immediately started to share my story, and over time started to craft that story. And I started, the very first time was in a youth group, and I changed my name. So my name was Anna, and that is all I said. And then as I got more comfortable, I was Anna Banks. And then as I got more comfortable, I was just Emily. And then I'm finally proudly Emily Ann Buck. And the reason I did that is because of the abuser and my past. You just don't know what you're dealing with.
Wait,
And
so
so,
is Anna your birth name? Or were you
nope,
going by Anna? Oh, okay.
just a fake name. I was scared out of my mind about him finding out. And I will never say
Mm,
his name, you'll just hear me say he.
yeah.
But I was so terrified that he would find out. And so I changed my name and just kept it as secret as possible. And
Mm,
as time went on, and I would, if I wasn't in person, if I was like being recorded at one point, I was sharing my story. I like hid my face. Like I just didn't make it known. And here we are now. I'm doing a podcast, and that's just the strength of the Lord and the
wow.
courage in me. And so what I like to say is you had your time, he did, now it's my time. My time
Yeah.
to speak and let the captives know that they can be free from abuse and even the Christians, right? Like because we see a lot of that in Christian homes as well.
Wow.
So well, I was raised in a Christian home, and I did not have daddy issues. You know, that is something that people might assume. My dad and I are really close, and I knew this guy from the fourth grade on. Really good friends with him, good friends with his family, and he was the guy that everybody liked to hang out with. He was hilarious. He was good looking. He played football. He was just the whole package. And so we were buddies all the way through middle school. And in ninth, actually at the end of eighth grade, he started to pursue me for dating. But I just thought he was a little immature. And I was all about getting into high school and dating the older guys. So like I just didn't have until he just wouldn't give up. And so at 15 years old, we started dating. And I should have seen some red flags before that.
Mm,
But one of the things that I teach students, as I mentioned, as a speaker, I go into the high schools, if I didn't mention that previously, is what's called the honeymoon phase. So the honeymoon phase is when you're dating or even when you're married, and it's just everything is perfect. That's
mm,
usually when the love bombing happens, and they are just putting on a show. They are the most charismatic, like happy, like nobody. I still have people to this day that just refuse to believe that this is my story based
wow.
off him and the family. And so they are so perfect. And the beginning stage of that relationship is the honeymoon phase. So in that
Mm,
is when he said that he loved me for the first time. And then that's when the emotional and the verbal abuse started.
mm,
And so a red flag for a lot of people is the verbal abuse. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to escalate into all the other types of abuse. It can just stay there. But I think in our culture, especially with Netflix, we are very, very desensitized to what it sounds like to talk to somebody and all the profanity that is, in the rap music too, in the
yeah.
like all the music, right? It's not
Right.
even just
What's normal? Yeah.
when you listen to it, how degrading it is to talk about women. And so
Mm,
people think it's cute, and it's not. Because what happens is you add in the yelling and the screaming and the aggressiveness of this, and that is now verbal abuse. So that's where it started. And for me, he had just called me a bitch. And I remember that first day he said that to me. I went home and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. I'd never been called that in my
yeah.
life.
And this was when you were 15 or around that
Yes.
age? Okay.
Yeah, 15 years old at the time, and I didn't understand what I had done. And so, of course, you have what is called the power and control wheel. It's very
Mm,
important if someone is in this relationship to know that the honeymoon phase is the first part. It escalates, and then they have this explosion. And then after the explosion, it's like the calming period. It's the peaceful period where there
mm,
might be an apology, and there might be promises that they won't do it again, but it is a cycle and it will just continue to go on. And so that
And
is when a lot of victims don't leave.
and what was the wheel called again?
The power and control wheel.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to build, and then there's always an explosion, and then there's always a cooling down period.
Hmm.
And so and I'll go ahead and say this, for well, not even just girls, it's a little bit less for boys, but for girls, 1 in 3 are in a dating domestic violence relationship from age 16 to 24.
Wow.
And even for women, it is the leading cause. 85% of women that end up in the hospital, it is domestic violence, which leaves 15% of the men. The men just don't, or the boys don't talk about it like the women do, to be seen as a coward. But I've definitely seen in my years of experience that guys have told me that, hey, my girlfriend was like that. Like she does that. So it happens. We just don't hear about it as much. But
So I wanted to stop you and ask, when he did this for the first time and you were caught off guard, I did wonder, like, is this because you just had like an innocent upbringing, like you just weren't used to people speaking that way? Like,
I have heard and studied, over the years that, because it's like, why did he pick me? But because you think, oh, I was weak. But no, they pick the strong because
mm,
they want to tear you down. It's a power. They want to be empowered and they want to take that power from you. So something in me was strong that he wanted to take down, and he became extremely jealous. And anything you said or did, and that's part of the emotional abuse, telling me who I wasn't allowed to talk to, where I wasn't allowed to go, even
mm.
times. And so all of that control is emotional abuse. And again, I have to reiterate that abuse is just not physical, because it can be the verbal and it can be the control, and it can just be the emotional abuse, which is also the extreme jealousy and isolation is a big one that I talk about.
Yeah,
Isolating.
can you go through the types? I don't want to stop your story, but since you're bringing it up, I think it's probably a natural flow to kind of talk about like specifically the types of abuse.
So the verbal abuse falls underneath the emotional abuse. And so with that is what we use now is gaslighting. That's the term we hear with everybody. It's really overused, but it's making someone feel like they're crazy. So when
Mm,
you're gaslighting somebody, you're second guessing reality. You're asking yourself, did I do that? Did I not do that? Maybe I did deserve that. So you are literally feeling crazy. And so with that, you're like, you know what? He just had a bad day. He got in an argument with his boss, and you start making excuses. So
mm,
the extreme jealousy is important to recognize, because we all get a little jealous. I mean, it just is what it is. But the extreme jealousy that happens, they will justify their actions because of their jealousy. And what you might hear, especially with the young girls, he just loves me so much. He just can't help it.
mm.
So jealous. But I'm talking, like, I've even heard situations where the girlfriend shouldn't even hang out with her brother. Like when you start wanting, and that is isolation too. So you're starting to isolate them from their friends and their family. One story I share for isolation. So my partner and I, we went to Franklin, Tennessee several years ago to be a part of what was called a sexual assault roundtable. And we were using our voices. So rape victims, sexual assault victims, we were using our voices to help implement the new laws into.
Hmm.
So it was really, really cool to be part of that. And this lady is sitting next to me, and she lives in Kentucky, and she tells me her story. She falls in love with this guy after 2 days. Like, it's crazy, right? But they fall so in love, he convinces her to move down to Knoxville. And she tells me as soon as she gets here, she's sexually assaulted so badly that she's lying on his bedroom floor, and she can't physically reach her hand up to grab the cell phone to call
Oh,
911. And she said, plus, I only knew where the gas station and the McDonald's were. I didn't know where it was. And
oh
so
my
that's
gosh.
with students to say, like, hey, look, he knew what he was doing. He isolated her. He literally moved her across state lines so that she couldn't receive help. And so they know what they're doing. They're planning this out, and they know if they can isolate you, then you can't get the help that you need. So biggest red flags for emotional abuse is the extreme jealousy, control, and the isolation. Then you
Okay.
have what is obvious, the physical abuse. And so that will usually start with like a wrist grab or like a push. Now, for me, it was escalating to that. There were a couple occasions, one time at school, he got upset with me over some gum. And he raised his fist to me up high, like he was going to just hit me. But the bell rang and everybody started to trickle into the area, so he didn't.
Wow.
So he stopped. There was another occasion where he just kind of pushed me off the sidewalk. And then for me, the worst was he had picked me up by my shirt and held me against the wall where my feet were off the ground. So the physical never got that bad, but it was obviously accumulating to that point.
Right.
But it usually is going to start with something very simple that, again, people make excuses for. And then a very important one that a lot of people don't understand is the financial abuse. And so for a 16-year-old kid and a 20-year-old college student, it might look like, hey, I bought you that, now you owe me. You know, I took you out to dinner and now you owe me. So that's financial. Now, when someone's married, it's so much deeper than that. You have spouses that usually it's the husband putting the wife on an allowance that is ridiculous. Like they have kids and they're given $200 for the whole month for haircuts, clothes, school supplies, and food. And so they're just completely a slave to their spouse, like needing more money, but they're not allowed to work. And
Right.
so that can be the financial abuse as well.
Do you find that do you know the statistics for women who are in marriages who are being abused, like compared to women who are like in the Bible single?
Goodness. So I should have looked that up. I
No,
don't
that's
have that.
okay. I just was curious because I do feel like you said it. You like in a marriage, it could be so much worse because that woman, first of all, she, especially as a Christian woman, she is in a covenant with this person. She is very unlikely to leave this person. And then on top of that, like you said, a woman who doesn't work, and a lot of times they will make them not work because there is a level of control there. So I do feel like a married woman likely will be a bit more vulnerable to this sort of of abuse.
So, and that's where you can talk about spiritual abuse, which
Mm,
is a whole different level. And one story, I love my pastor, but he was kind of new, and he's not much older than me, and he was speaking on wives submitting to your husbands, and this was a few years ago. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Where's the disclaimer? Where is it?" You know,
yeah.
and he went through the whole sermon. He did a great job. But he never brought up the disclaimer for abuse. And I marched my little butt
Mm,
down to the front and I said, I got to talk to you.
good for
And
you.
I said, when you preach that a wife is to submit to her husband, you have to explain except for abuse. And I said, unfortunately, there are women in this congregation today that are going home to their abuser. They're going to stay with
Mm,
the abuser because they think that the divorce cannot happen and that
yeah.
God would forgive them. And that is just not the case. And he understood, he apologized, and about a year later he was on that topic again, and he brought it up and explained what abuse can look like, because unfortunately it is in the church,
Yeah.
and people they just think that it's not. They want to turn a blind eye to the fact that Christians would never do that. But, oh my goodness. Okay, perfect example. This boyfriend of mine at youth camp in middle school was called to ministry. He was
Wow.
called in middle school, and I don't even know if I should tell you what his occupation is today. But
I'm afraid.
yeah,
Yeah.
so he's completed his calling. I'll say that. And
Wow.
you know, it's interesting because my partner, who works for the police department, when we found out what his occupation is today. He said, people like that have to have power over somebody.
That's so
They have to
true.
have authority over somebody. And so I would like to believe, as a Bible believing Christian who has forgiven him, that he has sought out that repentance, and as he's married and has all these children. But I don't know. But I just hope he did his business with the Lord. That's all I'm
Yeah.
going to say. If not, it's just odd that he's in a power position over people. But anyway, it does happen in the church, and I think I covered all the different types. So the physical, the emotional, the mental, that's kind of the same thing. The financial and the spiritual is honestly a whole different ballgame.
So I'm wondering, okay, so you told the story, like you got to the middle where he escalated to that physical abuse. So how did
Yeah.
you get out of it? And I think we could kind of mix it into how someone could, who's listening, get out of it if they're in the middle of some of this abuse.
So as everything was escalating, I was entering into my sophomore year of high school. And that summer, I saw the red flags and I saw that things were getting really bad. And I broke up with him 3 times,
Wow.
which is important to know because people, why did you take him back? How did you take him back? Did you have feelings for him? Yeah, there were still feelings there because of the honeymoon phase. Your brain is literally locked into that stage where you think the promises that they make, it's going to get better. But
Mm,
statistically, it just really never does. I mean, it's very rare that they actually change. So the third time I broke up with him, he called me crying so hard and said that if he couldn't have me, he didn't want to live. And so I knew what the threat was. So I called 911, and the ambulance takes him to the hospital. So they end up pumping his stomach. So he had taken a bunch of pills to try to.
oh my
I'm
goodness.
not going to say alive because I'm not stand when people say unalive
I
himself. I'm
know.
like,
It's Spotify. You're good.
so anyway, you get the picture, and he was okay, and he got sent home. So that is when his parents finally saw that we should break up, but he wouldn't leave me alone.
Hmm.
So as sophomore year starts, I started dating somebody else eventually, like by the fall. And this guy broke up with me because he said every time he calls me and every time he comes to talk to me, he's always around. This guy's always around, this ex-boyfriend of mine. He wouldn't leave me alone.
Ugh.
He was still controlling me, and I thought I was strong at this point, but I was still in a very weak place, and I didn't realize that. But that's just how it was. He
Yeah.
was just going after me, and so to interject, I did not bring up sexual abuse, but here we go, because this is a huge part of this is the biggest part of my story. So sexual abuse is unwanted, humiliating, or degrading sexual activity without consent. And when I started dating him at 15, I had never been with anybody. And
Yeah.
I said, these are my boundaries, and this is what I want my relationship to look like. He was totally fine with that until
Hmm.
he just wasn't. And some of the situations with him were all of a sudden everything would be happy, everything would be good, and he would just pull away from me and scream and I mean good as in like we're making out, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot going on, we're making out. But he would scream at me and get in my face and curse in my face and call me, effing whatever, and say, when the F are you going to do this? It's not fair to me.
Oh my goodness.
It's not fair to me. And he said, you have to tell me when you're going to do these things. So, of course, I am scared to death and like shocked because this person loves me. And so I
Yeah.
gave in. And so at the end of the day, at the end of my story, what I say though is he took my heart, he took my soul, and he took my body.
Yeah.
I did have one thing left for my husband on our wedding night. He did not take that.
Yeah.
But everything else he took. And we could have a whole second podcast on how involved his parents were. So if
Mm.
you want to like be shocked here, here we go. His mom thought it was so cute that she would buy me underwear. And I remember my birthday card when I turned 16 said we would make cute babies.
Oh my goodness.
It
This
says
wait,
that.
is this also a Christian family?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
In our church. And this is why my mom let me, and she feels terrible about this, but this is why
Yeah.
because she's like, I thought I knew this family.
Wow. Wow.
So there's another story. I don't even know if I should tell,
Eh,
but I'll say this. There were things that his mother knew about her 15, 16-year-old son that nobody should.
mm,
As a teenager, dating and getting caught up in the moment, there are things that mothers should not know about your son that she knew.
wow.
And my brain was like, are my parents just really strict? And they're
Mm,
like, now I know that no, they were just literally, something was very
yeah,
mentally
there's
wrong.
something very wrong with that family. Right.
Very wrong with that family. But
Wow.
one other story, I remember I wasn't driving yet, so I was 15, and she was taking me home for curfew. And he went into the front seat from the back seat of the car and whispered in her ear. And I was like, what'd you just tell her? And he told her about something that we had done that evening.
What?
And she's just giggling about it. And I'm like, so embarrassed. I mean, I'm like, what is
Yeah.
happening? I didn't even want to do these things. I told you I didn't want to do these things from the beginning of our
Yeah.
relationship. So the point of all this is that coercion is often used to gain the compliance of the victim. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell the students that coercion is what I call a guilt trip. And so that is sexual abuse. So
Yeah.
many people might just say, oh, you gave in. Yeah, I gave in.
Right, exactly. I mean, also 15, right? Or 16, like you're still very much a child. But even a full-grown woman after a while will, kind of give into some of this stuff because it is abusive, because there's
Yeah,
manipulation involved. And something else I thought about, like when you were mentioning the mother, being kind of complicit in some of this, there is a level of gaslighting there because you don't feel like it's right, but the mother seems to be okay with it. So it's almost not that she's literally gaslighting you, but you're like looking at this scenario and you're like, well, a mother should be find this problematic, but she's not. I'm a teenager. I know adults usually are authorities and like know right from wrong. So clearly I'm wrong, right? So there's like a level of gaslighting there too.
like my parents were strict. They were
Good.
very strict. Yes,
Gosh, I
like
don't want the other parents.
because look what can happen. And it's just they were way too involved. But you'll hear more of that in my story. So I'm not even to the climax yet.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's buckle up. Years ago, when I first decided I wanted to become the best version of myself, I went out and bought this beautifully designed guided mental health journal. I was so ready to change my life, y'all. But when I got home, I looked around my apartment and every table was covered in junk. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, every table was covered in junk. So I couldn't even write on this journal, even if I wanted to. I didn't even have a clear space to sit down and write. And that moment really hit me hard because before I could grow into the person I wanted to be, I needed some simple first steps just to get my life together. That's exactly why I created the Daily Survival Planner. It's a starting place. Practical, doable strategies to help you organize your daily life so the deeper healing has room, literally room, to actually happen. You can find it in the show notes, and podcast listeners get a special discount.
That's left. So it is now December of sophomore year. We have been broken up since summer. Okay. He still won't leave me alone. And he shows up one morning with photos of myself in his backpack.
Oh my gosh. And
Printed out. Printed out. And he's handing them out at school. And I'm absolutely beside myself. I'm hysterically crying. I go to my teacher and I ask her for help. she's like, I don't know what to do. Go find the guidance counselor. And the guidance counselor and some of these teachers had already seen how bad things had gone with us. So it wasn't like brand new to them. Then the guidance counselor says, go to the principal. So I go to the principal. And the only advice that he gave me was to make sure my brother didn't find out. So
What?
my brother was known for fighting. He was a little protective of me too. And so this principal knew, make sure he didn't find out. Well, he did, because as I left the principal, he was in a fight with him and the brother. So both of them. Well, that whole day, I'm trying to get the photos back. Well, he finally comes up to me and he's like, here you go, cussing me out. And I go off to the bathroom with my best friend and I start panicking. And I said, they're not all here. You guys remember what negatives are?
Yeah.
So you can reprint them. And so I'm like, I'm such a shell of myself. I'm trying to be brave, but I'm so scared. And I go back up to him and I'm like, you didn't give them all to me. And he's like, F you, they're mine. So I leave school and I grab another one of my friends and I go to the bank. And I took money out of the bank because I was going to run away. That's what I'm going to do. So I get home and my mom has gotten a phone call from the school because of the fight. But not only that, his parents, she actually has on a piece of paper 10 different phone numbers that his parents were calling from. But something in my mom's spirit said, don't answer the phone.
Wow.
They didn't know all this was going on, but they were picking up on, they didn't like him, especially my dad. And one of the reasons my dad could see through that was anytime we got in a fight, we were constantly fighting. He would always leave gifts on my doorstep, flowers, things like that, and so my parents did not like him. And so my mom felt something in her spirit to not answer the phone, but they were calling from every single number that they had access to because they could not wait to tell my mom and dad what I had done. They could not wait to expose me. That's how they viewed it. So I get home and my mom comes banging on my bedroom door and she's like, get out here now and tell me what's going on. And I had purchased a recorder about 3 months prior to this day. Things were getting so bad. Things were escalating so bad that anytime I was on the phone with him, and let me say forced, I can't tell you how many phone conversations I would have from 8 p.m., 10 p.m. at night until 5 a.m. You will not hang up the phone.
Wow.
You will. And I would record these phone conversations. And I play it for my mom and my dad, and they hear all the verbal abuse. And he had even threatened to kill my dad at one point. My dad started sleeping with a gun over his pillow.
Yeah.
Place sound locked. I was not allowed to leave the house. I remember crying, just, can I go to the library? I missed out on spring break with my friends because he was going to be in the same town that they were going. And so life was absolutely miserable. So during that time, all these months pass and I'm fighting for my life here.
Yeah.
And we had a detective on the case show up in my house with the big brown envelope that says evidence across the envelope. And that is still etched in my memory to this day, how serious things had gotten. Well, they show up and they're like, well, this is a he against she type thing. And, I think we've got everything. I was like, can I look? Like, no. We got it. We got their stuff. They gave it. And I was like, please, you don't understand how this family operates. Let me look. And I start going through the photos again, and there's still one missing. The one that ended up being felony charges.
Wow.
Child pornography.
Yeah.
So they were pissed. And I saw him pacing back and forth, this detective in my living room, calling the family, and he was so angry. And the mother gets on the phone, and she's like, let me go look. Oh, we found it, and it was just like, Are you
Why
kidding
would
me?
they
So
cover this stuff? It's just so bizarre to cover these things up. Like if you participate, you're more likely your son might not, get into trouble if you like participate and, are I forget the wording, but you know what I mean, like comply. Is that the right word?
sounds good to me. Yeah, I mean,
I know there's like a real word that they use in the legal system where like if you participate, like
yes.
collaborate, all the words, and you're like forthcoming with it. Yeah.
Like an accessory. So speaking of, so in this time frame of December to about March, I was fully blackmailed by the whole family. I would be working, and they would call the manager at my workplace and demand that I get on the phone. And he and his mother would be on the phone together, and they would say, "When you get off work tonight, you need to stop by the house and give him a hug."
What? And
I
was this during your relationship or after?
This is all after
Oh my
we
gosh.
together summer, but this is after he brought the pictures to school. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is before he brought the pictures to school. So I was literally like living this, I was like this shell of myself life. People were noticing that. I mean, I was class president and I was on the
Uh,
dance team in the cheerleading squad. And all of a sudden, this bubbly girl, this joyful girl was not joyful anymore. And people were
yeah.
recognizing this. So it was a very dark season because I was constantly living in fear while I was being blackmailed. And she was like, the moment you don't do something we want you to do, these photos are stamped and addressed to your parents, and they will be mailed the minute you don't do what we want to do.
Oh,
So that,
I see what you mean. The mother was looking forward to your parents seeing that. Okay.
yep,
Ugh.
yep. So it finally all came to an end. The Monday we got back from spring break, his entire family had moved. So he wasn't on campus, and I found out his entire family had moved
Wow.
across town. And so I had an order of protection against him. And that whole time, too, his parents were accusing me of slander because the night of the photos, I think back now as an adult, and I'm like, that was his last straw. He was literally out to murder my spirit, and
Yes.
anything that he had not taken, he was going to take it because I remember what I was wearing. I will I remember exactly. He calls me up and he says, "Hey, come over." And I was like, "Listen, we are not together. You're not my boyfriend." He's like, "But my parents are gone." I was like, "I am not your girlfriend and I don't want to come over." And he's like, "No, no, no, just come over and we'll watch your favorite TV show and cuddle." And keep in mind, this has been a year and a half. So, you might think, "Why'd you go?" Well, you've been brainwashed for a year and a half and you're scared. And so I lie to my parents, tell them I'm going to a Bible study. And I go to the house where he's alone. And when I walk in the kitchen, he attacks me. He forces me to the kitchen floor and he rapes me with his hands.
Oh my gosh.
And I just have to interject because some people will say that's not rape, but
No,
in
it is.
it does not matter what you use, that is rape. And this is what I don't share in schools, but it's important because after I am fighting and I'm crying because it hurt, I stand up in the kitchen and I go to the corner and I can still picture, almost like you're looking at your out of body experience. I can still picture myself just standing there with my head looking down as he just screams at me, "You effing da 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 da." And I stand there and I take it. And then we watch our show, but something in me is just like so, like I could puke. Like something in me is so not okay. Like this was also the changing point for me as well. And as I leave, he pulls out this camera and he
Wow.
says,
So this is
"This
the night. Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh.
night that I think I just wouldn't get back together with him. And I think he just wanted to end me." And, my little 16-year-old brain thinks he just thought of it. No, he had this whole thing planned out. I know that now. And so he had to talk me into it for 15 minutes. And I finally said, okay, if you swear to God, you swear on your parents, you swear on us that nobody will ever find out. And at first it was pretty innocent. And then as soon as it started up, you can see in the photos that I was like, no, 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 no. I changed my mind. No, 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 no. But no, that changed. And
Yeah.
he got what he wanted. And I remember I was so numb for months. Like I had not shed a tear over this guy in so long. I was just pissed. But I
Yeah.
cried the whole way home. And I knew something had changed in that moment. I knew that something had shifted. And so that is when everything just broke loose. And he held those over me for months until he just decided, well, I still didn't get her, so I'm going to bring
Yeah.
him to school and show him to everybody. And so,
So
in,
these are the photos that his mother knew about. She was also talking about these photos. This is so crazy to me. Oh my gosh.
she would have also been arrested. So the police show up on campus to search his backpack, and um, they, if he had him on him, he would have been arrested for child pornography. And then she actually was at work, and they went into her workplace and searched her workplace. She didn't have him there. That's when they went to the house and she offered them up. And then that's when the detective came into my home saying, we got him. And I was like, no, 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 no. Let me see. What she also turned in were any birthday cards, Christmas cards, love cards of a 16-year-old girl's heart, and copies of my diary.
What?
Of my diary. So what she had
Wow.
done, she went through my had copies of my diary, um, Christmas cards, whatever, anything that said "I love you," "You're so hot," anything at all that showed that I actually at one point loved this guy. She highlighted in yellow because
Wow.
that was ammunition to say, "Look,
Yeah.
she's he didn't abuse her. He didn't do these things to her. She likes him. She loves him."
I see. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
So this was like multi-level. So it wasn't just like abuse from a partner. This was like a coordinated effort from an entire family. Wow. And you know what? I will say that this sounds very familiar, like based off of the experiences that I've had with some family and friends, where there is a level of cover up and kind of like coordination that happens with people that are close to them. So I don't know if it's because they, it's in the family, like this is normal to them and it's out of love. But I have seen that be the case that you're going to have a mother or a sister who's going to be complicit in what is happening. And I don't want to just say, the woman and the man, but you tend to have a family member who is like complicit in what's going on, who can like try to help cover these things up.
it's very true. I saw that working in the jail. So part of releasing people back into society to be supervised before I chose to release them would be to call family. And I cannot even believe some of the phone calls like that I had with people. I mean, you had the parents that cried, his life has got to turn around, leave him there so he can make a change.
Mm,
Oh, yeah. Well, this is what's going on at home. I mean, just jaw dropping content that would be X rated on TV. Like, what? You're okay with your son or daughter having been exposed to this or, this,
mm,
like, they just not there. So I do think some of that was his history. I remember when
yeah.
he was telling me about how he was little and saw his mom in an altercation with his dad, like a
Mm,
something or
yeah.
another. But she was also the mom that the older brother on his 18th birthday, they hired a stripper to come out. Again, she's a pillar in my
What?
church.
Yeah.
Uh, and my friends and I couldn't believe it. We are like, let's go spy. Let's go see if that's true. So we did. We went to the neighborhood and we went into their backyard and we saw her through the fence.
That is crazy. This is like a movie or something, but and I'm just like so heartbroken that this is like your real life, that you had to live this at such a young age. Like you were dealing with
Yeah.
so much, so much. And it really is the grace of God that you're telling this story from a place of victory for one, but also it's turned into this whole movement that that you've created here, that you're going out and helping others. But that kind of, well, we didn't get to finish like how you got out, because that's kind of what I want to know, like
Yeah.
actionable steps that
Sure.
someone else could take, that's kind of like listening to the story and it sounds familiar to them, or they want to like have this heads up of how they could get out in the future. So how did you finally get rid of these people?
So the first and most important thing was the support of my parents. So if you're older, find the support of somebody and find, a loved one that recognizes it for what it is and can go, like in Knoxville, we have a place called the Family Justice Center and Victims Advocates. So most bigger cities are going to have something like that. Call them, go talk to them. That this is what they're trained in. And my parents being supportive, they immediately got me into therapy. So
Hmm.
highly recommend therapy, but find the right one.
Yeah.
The first therapist I went to was a Christian man, and I tell him my story, and I don't even remember how that went, honestly. I mean, I was just coming out of this.
Yeah.
And his words to me were, "So you're a porn star."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh
So
gosh.
needless to say, I kept getting beaten in my
Yeah.
most time. And then we found another one through my church, and I found the right person. Um,
Hmm.
so therapy is definitely important. But I want to say this too. If you have a story like mine and you've never dealt with it, there are statistics that say that when a woman reaches her 30s, it really rears its ugly head if you have never dealt with it. So it is so
Wow.
important. If you're listening to something like this for the first time and you recognize this is you, what I don't care how old you are, but if you've never dealt with it, you have to deal with it, because the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be. I've had
Mm.
to me in tears, like, how did you start speaking? I want to do that. And I can just tell they're not ready. You can't just be surviving, you have to be thriving. This
Yeah.
story is so almost far removed from my life that I feel like I'm talking about another girl. And that is
Mm.
Jesus, which leads me to Jesus. I was under a gag order by the court. So I was not allowed to discuss my case. So I show up at school, and you have really mean people that call you slut and call you whore. I was written
Mm.
about on the desk. Like I would sit, someone would know I was going to be in that desk, and I would sit down and my name would just be, it was just awful. I
Yeah.
was one. I was called white trash. I was yelled at. Like, and the difference in who I was old me would have been like, "Oh yeah," like,
Yeah.
okay. And me was, "I'm sorry you feel that way about me, and I'll be praying for you." And I would walk off
Mm.
because I knew that's not who I was,
Yeah.
but I could share my story in case we went to court. So
Mm.
abusers, if anyone has one, knows that they're really good at manipulating and lying. And so he got to do this and just run his mouth while I had to stay silent.
Why couldn't you say anything?
It's like Miranda rights. It could have been used against me in court.
Okay.
And so they were already trying to accuse me for slander.
Mm.
So, and it's just people like that, they look like they're winning in the moment because they're so powerful. And that is why the school didn't help me, because people were afraid of this family. They had a lot of pull in our community. And so people didn't want this family after them. Honestly, he was the kid that didn't make the basketball team and was on it the next day because his mom would march herself down to the school. Okay. So a lot of,
Mm.
and so people were afraid. So I just wasn't allowed to discuss it. So I had a lot of betrayal and a lot of loss, and a lot of people that believed his charming smile and personality,
Yeah.
who never
Wow.
would think that that was who he was. And so I had nobody. I had my
Yeah.
Bible,
Amen.
Um, and I would sit down and read my Bible. And honestly, it's one of the most cherished times in my life because of how the Lord just spoke to me through his word and let me
Mm.
know that he was there and never left me. And he was there the whole time. And I never got mad at him. I never
Mm.
asked, why did I experience this? Because I knew that I had also made mistakes as a 16-year-old girl. And I saw the red flags and I kind of ignored them for so long. I want to make that clear. Like, yes, there's brainwashing and abuse, but I also, participate in things I shouldn't have done. I made bad choices, but also there was abuse.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like God really was like, I love you so much. I don't want you to go through this. But guess
Mm.
what? Later, he sees the outcome. I can't
Yes.
imagine if I had known then what I know now. Outcome. And so he allowed me to go through this, and he was so good. He was such a good God. And even though I had a lot of loss, it shaped me. And at 16 years old, I grew up so fast. And
Mm.
that teenagers care about, like drinking and drugs, I was like, I don't care about that. I
Yeah.
just want Jesus because I want to heal.
Yeah.
And some of the other things that I did was learn what healthy relationships look like. And so, again, I had a really good relationship with my dad, so none of this makes sense. I have a really good relationship with my mom. They're still married to this day. And
Mm.
so that doesn't make sense. But I learned what healthy relationships look like, learning about what abuse was, because never once did I think I was in an abusive relationship. Never did.
Mm.
And so once I learned those things, I became very firm on what my boundaries looked like to date and
Okay.
save myself for my wedding night. And that was so easy for me because I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this guy just took everything. Why would I give that away to anybody else? And
Yeah.
so that started my story, even into college, where every guy I dated, I was like, if you want to date me, this is what you're going to get or what you're not going to get. And I just was a different girl in college. I just had a whole different respect from people because I had my boundaries, and that was all through the therapy. But
Mm.
back to
This
the
is a really,
tangible.
I mean, that is a really good point. It forced you to learn boundaries that some people they never get. Some women never really get those strict boundaries, maybe because they don't have to. But you were forced to learn what boundaries were at a really young age, and they ended up protecting you, which is what boundaries do. They ended up protecting you and keeping you through, and like keeping you as the person that who God created you to be. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
and that's why God is loving. He's not fun. He set boundaries so that I wouldn't get myself into this. And so I tell these kids, like, hey, I'm going to teach you something that TikTok is not going to teach you. It is okay to
Mhm.
be the weirdo and go against the crowd. Like, the world is telling you to do all these things, but you do not have to give in and do all these things. And sadly, a lot of them are in these relationships and they think it's just normal. And so
Mm.
almost every class that they come up to me afterwards and show me a text message or they tell me their own story, and I'm like, that's abuse. And they've never heard that before because I think they all get into this brainwash place thinking, oh, maybe he's just having a bad day, maybe she's just crazy, but it'll get better. But that's the thing, is if you can learn your boundaries and your morals and your values, what matters most to you, don't cross over them for anybody. And it's
Mm.
better live. That's where you thrive. That is where you thrive. And so I don't want anyone out there to think it's just an answer, just a prayer. My story is that Jesus was the answer. Like, he is the one that transformed me, and he eventually got me to the right therapist. It didn't
Yeah.
start off that way, but it was not easy. The next 2 years of my life were almost harder than around that
Mm.
day. I was starting over at my high school with the people that I'd known since like first grade. And it took a lot of patience and proving to people that I was not who they thought that I was. And when I graduated, I had people say, "You're the strongest person I've ever met in my life."
Wow.
And I was, suicidal twice because it was so easy to be like, just take me to another school or take me here, those
Yeah.
dark, but plugging in to Jesus and my parents helping me get into therapy was the answer. And
Mm.
so if you're like, well, you were younger than me, that's different. You have to find a victim's advocate in your local area. They're everywhere. And just wherever you live, find that person to help you. But here's a very important statistic for anyone that's listening. It takes a victim 7 to 10 times before they leave.
Wow.
So if you are the victim, that might explain why you're still in this relationship. And if you're the bystander or a loved one of a victim, you're really frustrated because you don't understand why this person won't get out. But
Yeah.
just offer them grace and encouragement and say, hey, I see what's going on and I am here when you're ready to get that help. Just let them know
Mm. Yeah.
because
Do you
they
mean
don't
like
always.
7 to 10 times of like literally trying to leave and coming back, or just like 7 to 10 incidents of abuse?
Yeah. So it's usually 7 to 10 times of really bad situations of abuse. So whether it be
Okay.
physical or emotional, before they decide to leave, usually it's the physical. It's going to be the physical.
Mm. Yeah.
As they start to get beat more and more to death. And I will say this, if you are being beat where clothes can cover it, okay, so that's, the long sleeves, the long skirts or pants, they know what they're doing. But the moment you start getting abused in the face, you are destined to possibly die. And I hate to say it that
Wow.
way. But the risk of a fatality greatly increases when a victim tries to leave and when they start getting hit in the face. Because what happens
Mm.
is the abuser is so angry and so done with this person that they want to destroy their beauty so that no one else can look at them. Because if they can't have them, nobody will.
Wow. Yeah.
And I remember speaking one time. It was like a panel of us. It was this beautiful Black woman, beautiful, could be a model, and she had 2 scars down her face like this.
Oh gosh.
And she shares her story, and I share mine. And this is in front of the police academy because we were training recruits on domestic violence.
Hmm.
And that was the last straw. He came in while she's getting ready for work, and he cut her on each cheek.
Oh
But let me tell
gosh.
you, this girl is so incredibly gorgeous no matter what. Like, oh, and a sister in Christ. And we kept in touch for a while over the years, but they
Wow.
don't care anymore, and that's the last straw. So if your face starts getting beaten up, you're in trouble. And you
Hmm.
have to that you need, pack a bag, make a plan, um, put a phone number in the bottom of your shoe, little piece of paper somewhere where they can't find it because they're going to go through your phone. Trust me, they're going to go through.
Hmm.
Everything's being recorded. There was a girl my husband worked with years ago, and he was like, Emily, I think she's in this situation. And I was like, I got to talk to her. And she wanted to talk to me. And so she went to like her iPad. We found out he was screening the iPad. And so
Hmm.
her again.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that's what happens is just to hide some money in places that can't be found, make a backpack, a getaway bag, put a phone number in your shoe because they might take your phone. And there are people that will help you. You just have to find them.
Right. Are there usually places where women can go? I know you had mentioned the Family Justice Center. Is that a place that a woman could kind of escape to? Or are there
Yes.
like designated places? Because I know like there's drop boxes for babies at
Yes.
firehouses and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, if you went like in Knoxville to the Family Justice Center, they can put you in a home that I don't even know the location to.
Hmm.
So they'll
Okay.
help you. Yeah, they will help you. So, in most places, most cities are going to have that. Now, smaller towns, I don't know, but um, you just got to do it. And it's so scary, but you have to get someone to help you and hopefully get safe, especially if you have children and all that involved too.
Right. So you mentioned red flags a couple of times. Could you kind of just go over a few of the top red flags?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So jealousy is going to be one of the first ones that comes out. So that extreme jealousy, and like for high school students, they might even say, you're too busy cheerleading, and so you need to quit because we don't ever get to see each other. So the extreme jealousy, control, the isolation, and of course, if they start laying hands on you, that is the biggest red flag.
Right.
But it's going to start with the verbal abuse. It's going to start with the verbal abuse. They're going to call you every name in the book, and then they're going to apologize, and then
Mm,
it's going to keep coming out. So those are the biggest red flags: is the control and the jealousy and the isolation, and then of course the physical abuse.
this is pretty tough because I feel like there is a level of jealousy that is like normal, like you said, and then, trying to judge like what is like, too high of a jealousy or too much. Um But I feel like I think I always say, like, we all have the spirit of a discernment inside of us. We choose not to listen to it sometimes, but I feel like the way that I'm reading it is that if it's jealousy to the point where your spirit is now feeling disrupted, like you just feel like, this isn't love, like, listen to that spirit because you're likely right. Is that a good assumption?
That is
Yeah.
great. I think that's really, really good because, especially if you're a praying woman or a praying man and you start seeing some things go off about this relationship, I promise you, He will make things end. He will end them if this is not the person for you. But if there is just this uncontrollable anger, and don't fall for the excuse of alcohol. Alcohol and
Yeah.
drugs really escalates what's there. And even if the family was abusive to the abuser, this is not anything at the end of the day but a choice. You want to know why it's
Mm.
their choice? Because when they get mad at their boss at work, they're not hitting their boss, cussing out their boss. They're controlling their tongue and their actions. So whether their parents abused them or whether they started drinking and doing drugs and they just lost it, just got so drunk, they're still making a choice. So
Wow, that's such a good point. That's such a good point. They have the ability to control themselves in other environments, and they're choosing not to in this one. Wow, that is
yeah,
really, really, really helpful. Um, okay, so we're coming up on an hour, so I do have one last question. I think you would be really good at answering. You work with a lot of young women. You're going into high schools and stuff, and you have young people in your home too at this age, right? And so
yeah.
when you imagine the next generation of women, what do you hope they know about themselves?
I want them to know that they are worthy of who God created them to be. We get so caught up in social media, and I'm raising two boys, and I will point out to my two boys, this girl is AI. This girl is fake. Like, don't get caught up in the image because that might not even be real. And so
Hmm.
women are so caught up in looking a certain way, and I I have my reasons for not doing like Botox, right? I'm in the holistic world for one. But
Mm-hmm.
the other reason I don't do procedures like that is I want these young girls to say, I don't need that. Like, she's not doing that. I don't need that. And my mom doesn't do it. And she has aged so beautifully and gracefully. And
Yeah.
so I want girls to feel so comfortable in their skin and who Christ has made them that when they do pursue these relationships, they recognize I am a daughter of a king and I don't need this. I can do better. I don't need to put up with this. This is not love. And I can find better. I might wait longer, but
Yeah.
throw away the gift that God has given us, that He has saved for marriage, and to start so young and to be obsessed with what the world tells us and the culture tells us is beautiful and right. I am just so opposite of that. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. But to know who
Yeah.
you are in Christ is going to make you so beautiful and strong. And people won't even know what to do with you, honestly. Like, these guys can't even handle a girl like that most days until they mature and God makes them ready for that type of a relationship.
Yeah.
But I see these girls understand their worth. I want to see them not feel like they have to send a photo, a nude, when they start dating somebody. Like, what in the,
Mm.
why are you doing that? Why do you think snapping a photo is going to get his approval? He's done with you. He's throwing you out now. You gave him what he wanted and he's moving on. Like,
Right.
be the girl that is so far removed from that. And you will have so much respect and everyone will want to date you. Because
Yeah.
you'll be the one person that's so different from what everyone else is doing. So be
Yeah.
the weirdo, and be different, and own it. My gosh, I think over the years I've seen people like on The Bachelor where they're like, I don't know if I should tell him. I don't know if I should tell him I'm a virgin. I'm like, shut up! Like, oh my god,
Shout it.
be single.
Yeah.
And then
There's a level
you,
of exclusivity that men really like, and women are they're losing that. Because I think the culture is actually becoming dominated by women, and that sort of spirit that is not necessarily masculine, right? The way it used to be. And so we're not hearing what men really want anymore. It's like what women think men want, and like they're doing what women think, it's kind of just perverted is what I'm trying to say. That image is perverted because I talk to a lot of men who are like, no, I actually want a woman who like doesn't show her body, who doesn't do all of this stuff because it's so easy. It's so accessible. They're everywhere, right? Pornography is just like normal now. It's on TV, it's everywhere. So like someone who's like, "Oh wait, no, I don't do these things." And I do know what I want and I'm waiting for this or whatever, who has boundaries. Men actually really appreciate that. At least men. We're not talking about boys. We're talking about men.
it's, but I think there are some boys out there, but definitely it takes a little growing up. They think, but what's happened is you're left empty. And I think any man would tell you if they lived that life in high school or college, they are just left empty. And
Yeah.
so don't even get me started on the pornography stuff because that is
Oh
a
my
whole different
gosh. Yeah.
like.
I feel like we have a whole other podcast on our hands, which I do feel like I need to have you back because I really want to talk about the prison ministry. So yes, let's talk about that. I'm gonna send you a message. We're gonna set another appointment. But I do want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about any of projects that you're doing or kind of just like the work that you're continuing to do in this arena.
I just say that I'm still speaking in all the high schools. So each semester, fall and spring, I continue to speak in all the high schools and share my story with my partner. So he works for the police currently. And so he's like, I call him the stats and facts guy. So he shares like the local stats and facts, and then I come in. And I feel like we just couldn't do it without each other. Like, I love him. And next week we are speaking at a homicide memorial downtown, and we were asked to do it last year, but it got rained out. So I'm excited to do that for the first time and speak. And I feel so unworthy of that, but these
Mm,
families. But I'm excited to hopefully offer a word of encouragement. I don't know what yet, but so I will just keep plugging along in what I'm doing. I would say one of my greatest achievements, and I give God all the glory, is a few years ago I got an award from Marcy's Law, and it was for criminal justice. And there's a law from a girl that was abused and murdered by her abuser named Marcy.
wow.
So I received that award a few years ago, and it's right over here on my desk. But
Amazing.
it, I just look at that and I just think, wow, God is Redeemer.
Yes.
God truly is Redeemer. So He is so good, and I'm just so thankful for what He's done with my story. And I know that anyone that has their own story, they can have the same outcome. They can have the
Amen.
same outcome. Just do what you need to do, turn to the Lord, and be hopeful and prayerful, and He can make anyone's life new.
Yeah, there is hope. That's what we need to hear sometimes, that Sometimes in these situations, it doesn't feel like there's any way out. There's always a way out. There's always an answer. There's always hope.
Amen, sister.
All right, Emily Ann, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was so great to talk with you.